So I want to welcome everyone back to another fantastic edition of Off the Shelf, where every single week we're going to be reviewing a bunch of comics right here on YouTube on Friday. Just a reminder, when I put up all the titles for the comics, you guys can jump ahead to that specific title if you want to, check that review out. Or this week, I'm going to try to start putting in a next button, and that's going to go down in the bottom corner, and it'll skip you ahead to the next review. Okay? So it's going to be just that easy. You don't want to see that review? Skip it. So for this week, for DC, we have the incredibly spoiled Batman Incorporated number 8. Yes, I know. Everybody knows the ending to this one, so we'll get to that. Next, we have the finale to the guerrilla warfare in The Flash, number 17. And then we're going to move over to Calvin Rose and his return to Gotham in Talon, number 5. All right, so those are your DC titles. Click, skip to those ones. Now, we're going to move over to Marvel Land. Yes. This week, we'll start off with Doc Ock and the Future Foundation in Avenging Spider-Man number 17. And then we're going to go to the actual Future Foundation with a good old-fashioned Matt Fraction face-off. And that's right, because we got the FF number 4 and Hawkeye number 8. And yes, I did say Hawkeye. It is Hawkeye. Hawkeye number 8. And which title do you think is going to be the most Matt Fractionist-y book of all? We're going to find out. All right? Then we're going to move over to Uncanny Avengers number 4. Yes, that's the flagship title of Marvel now. And so that is all it. You can jump ahead and go to one of those reviews. All right? So, with all that out of the way, With all that out of the way, we're just going to get going with this. Off the Shelf, Rants and Raves. So for this week, we're going to start off with Batman Incorporated number 8. And yes, if you've been living under a rock, you probably don't realize what actually happened during this book. But Damian Wayne dies. Oh my goodness. Oh, I was so shocked when I read that book. Everywhere on the internet it said he's going to die, and the DC site actually said he was going to die. Like, pretty much no matter where you went, the news, someone told you and spoiled it for you, I'm sure. And if they didn't and you're watching this video, sorry. But he's died. He's dead. All right? So, but is it worth it? Is it worth it to go pick up this book and actually read it? We'll find out here in a second. I'm going to say right off the hop, it is great to see Nightwing and Damian fighting side by side. Really liked it. There was a good portion before the pre-52 where Damian and Nightwing were really partnered up, and they were, battling crime there for quite a while. And they really make a good team. And I really like the interaction between the two characters. The circumstances in which Damian does die in this book is not really something I really expected. I kind of wanted more. Scott Snyder had this big, huge thing with Joker, and nobody died, and it was a fantastic book. And then you get this. It just seems like the death for Damian was pushed into the book just so he could leave his mark before he, leaves. I didn't have a good time reading this book. And mainly because I knew it was coming, yes, but even still, when I read the book, I just couldn't get past the story in this book. The art here is not my favorite. So it was just very two-dimensional and very plain as a whole. Overall, Damian and Nightwing team up is awesome. There's tons of action during this book. And the big event when someone dies, there's a lot of stuff that's going to lead up afterwards. There's going to be some repercussions to this whole situation that's happened here. So, I mean, all that stuff is really good. It's really, kind of a plus. Batman during this book is really non-existent. He's kind of stuck in a box for the whole thing, and then he finally gets out and sees his son dead at the end. So really not really played a big role in this big thing that's happening here. The art is really plain, and the story as a whole never really grabbed me. So for this book, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I mean, there's still, obviously, if you want to see where Damian Wayne dies, go pick it up. Again, it doesn't hold a lot of water for me because it's a comic book, and comic book deaths really don't mean a ton. They always seem to come back anyways. So really, it's only a matter of time before he makes his way back into the comics. So that was for Batman Incorporated number 8. So let's move over to Flash number 17. And this is the final showdown with Grodd. The art here is absolutely fantastic. I love it. The action sequences are so frantic. The panels where they're overlapping, I mean, the whole thing is just absolutely fantastic. It's a joy to read and to really get into. The art really drives this story. It's nice to see the Rogues, play a big role during the book and really be the heroes for a change. It's nice to see them, revert back when the heroes did kind of show up and start taking over, that they kind of sunk into the background and said, hey, you know what, this is let the heroes be the heroes, and we're going to get the heck out of here. So I did like them. The Rogues were a really good part of this book, and I really like seeing them, develop more as well. Overall, it's a solid issue. It's kind of nice to see the guerrilla warfare, that whole thing to be kind of done and over with. It was kind of dragging on there for a while. There is a ton of action during this book, so I mean that's always a good thing. I really like the fight sequences with the Flash. I mean, everything was beautiful the whole way through, and the art really brings you into what's going on in here. So I'm going to give this book a 4 out of 5. Still, the story is just a little bit lacking, is a little slow. But you know what? There's lots that can still happen with Flash. Very exciting book. Very good, very good read. So go check it out. That was for Flash number 17. All right, so we are going to move over to Calvin Rose and Talon number 5. So during the events of this book, Talon heads back to Gotham City. Right at the beginning, we see a little bit of Batman and Dick. During this issue, we see them, how they're still kind of keeping tabs on the Court of Owls and that whole thing. The Butcher is back in this book. It's really nice to see his rogues, play more of a role during the book. And we get to really see how the Butcher is really an incredibly scary guy. Scary dude to be messing with. And the art is really good. I really enjoyed the art. The characters, the way that they're depicted is really good. And it's kind of nice to see everybody kind of, take a breath and take a little bit slower on this book. Not a ton of action as a whole, but it was a really good story. And it really did make out to be a fun ride. Overall, the characters are becoming more developed. The story's not really blowing me away quite yet. But at the same time, it's really developing and it's really becoming, a solid issue on its own. I really am not a huge fan of really bringing Batman into this quite yet. I don't really think he needs to be here. I think Calvin's doing a fine job on his own, and I'd like to see him, develop more. It's really a solid issue. A lot of stuff is happening. I'm still going to give this book a 4 out of 5. Really fun. I really enjoy it. Really good read. And that was for Talon number 5. So, let's move into the world of Marvel with Avenging Spider-Man. Now, this has got to be my favorite Spider-Man book going right now. I love the way the book is. It's absolutely fantastic. I really like these just one issues, hit, done, out of the way. It's a ton of fun. It's always good. They're all self-contained stories, and they're always a team up. I really enjoy it. For this book, we see the Future Foundation and Spider-Man team up, basically, as there's a ton of stuff it's really happening during this book. We got the Future Foundation, we got Spider-Man babysitting all these kids, the Time Variance Authority, Death's Head. There's so much going on in this book, and it's still surprising that he can pack all that stuff into this story and still have a ton of action, ton of stuff going on, and be all self-contained. I mean, the book is absolutely a fantastic and a marvel to read. And it's really nice not having whiny little Peter Parker over the shoulder of Doc Ock during this book. And Doc Ock really seems to be quite humorous. I really enjoyed reading him as Spider-Man during this book. He's really arrogant, yes, but at the same time, this particular case, it's actually fun to read. I actually enjoyed reading what Doc Ock actually had to say. I kind of still get annoyed by the fact that, he still has to kind of announce the fact that, they're separate people and this is what Peter Parker would have done and this is Doc Ock and he's Doc Ock. I don't need him announcing that so much anymore. I just kind of would like him to just go with the role. We all know that he's Doc Ock in Spider-Man's body. We get it. Just stop telling us. That's pretty much my only beef with this whole story. Overall, I really enjoyed the book. The story here is really hectic and a ton of fun. There's no whiny Peter Parker during this book, and Doc Ock's inner dialogue was actually funny to read. So, I'm giving this book a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. I had a ton of fun reading it. And so, for me, I give it a good score. I think everyone should go and pick up Avenging Spider-Man just because it is a good story. It is a good read. So that was for Avenging Spider-Man number 17. So, if you guys have been watching any of my other previous videos to this point, you'll know how much of a Matt Fraction fan I am. And as a whole, no matter what he does, really, you can't go wrong. I find his books absolutely fun to read, funny to get into, very laid back, humorous, just overall enjoyable. And this week we have 2 books that are both from Matt Fraction, and that would be FF and Hawkeye. Now, these 2 books are absolutely wonderful. I really enjoyed both of the books. Now, we're going to start off with Future Foundation, FF, number 4. Now, the Moloids during this book have found themselves fixated with the Jen. They enlist Bentley to help them destroy Jen's date that she's going on. And it's not supposed to be really a date. It's supposed to be just a get together with an old friend kind of thing. And really, every attempt at sabotage kind of leads them to make their date more magical. And I just love the way that that whole storyline went. I had so much fun. I smiled. I was reading. I kind of laughed to myself. I mean, really, a ton of fun just reading that whole storyline. The part with Johnny Storm, Scott Lang, Darla, it kind of seemed pointless during this book. I really didn't have much for that. I mean, yes, as a whole, as the grand scheme of, FF and the Future Foundation book here, it really did kind of push the story along a little further as the group story. But during this book, it really had no point, and I really don't see why it needed to be there. I mean, if you were going to go pick up a book and just pick it up and read it because you really wanted to get into it, this is a really good book to just pick up and you can get right into it. There's a lot of characters that you may not be quite familiar with. Pretty much everybody in that book except for maybe She-Hulk. It's just a good book. Go pick it up. I can't say enough. Overall, the story is a ton of fun. The art in this book is absolutely fantastic. The Moloids are absolutely hilarious with Bentley. I mean, really, it's a ton of fun to read. The story involving Johnny, Scott Lang, that whole thing was kind of pointless, so I really didn't like that part. But other than that, I'm still going to give this book a 5 out of 5 because, I mean, really, it's an awesome book. Everybody should be reading, at Future Foundation. And that is, definitely worth a 5 out of 5. All right, so that was for FF number 4. So we're going to move on to Hawkeye number 8. Now, I love the art in these books. I love Aja's, work. It's fantastic. I love the style. Clint really seems to be a sucker for punishment, really, for whatever reason. He's basically on thin ice with pretty much just about everybody in his life, including the Avengers. And I mean, even though this book is not really a superhero book where he's out there fighting crime and, fighting with the Avengers, it's really about him and his personal life and him and his, apartment. I really enjoy it. I really love the way this book is. It's really laid back, really a ton of fun. There is quite a bit of action during this book. But as a whole, I really enjoy it. Like, it's a really good story. And Clint, if he's not bandaged up by the end of the book, you haven't read a really good book. Pretty much every time you look at him, he's got more bandages on his face. So, I mean, really, it's so much fun to read it. The comic book covers during this book are absolutely fantastic. And it really pushes the story along as well. And the use of them is really quite unique. And I really enjoyed that whole aspect of it. Overall, I enjoyed the art. The story is hilarious. It's really fun to see Clint mess things up with pretty much everyone. Call me sadistic. I just really enjoy watching him screw everything up. You may get a little bit lost if you're not sure who all the characters are in this book, but it's still really good to read, really easy to catch up and kind of get going with this. I'm going to give this book a 5 out of 5. Absolutely loved it. Had so much fun with it. And that was for Hawkeye number 8. So let's move on to Uncanny Avengers number 4. Now, if you watched the very first video that I had posted under the title Comic Book News and Reviews, you will know that I had a few words to say about Uncanny Avengers number 3. Has this book really fixed the issues that I found in that book? Well, let's find out. The art here is really enjoyable. I really liked it as a whole. The highlight for me is watching Captain America punch Red Skull in the face so hard he knocks his tooth out. I thought that was just an absolutely awesome panel. Really, really good. But really, that's it. That's all I can find in this whole entire book that I really, really enjoyed. It kind of sinks pretty much immediately when you look over to the side of the panel and it reads and it tells you that he hit him in the face, basically. You know, harder than he's ever hit him before. Really, do you need to tell me that? I don't have any reason why you need to tell me this. Stop narrating this comic. I just get tired of this. Like, this book is fine. This book is actually a really good book, but don't need this narration in here. Take it out of there. If you actually, when you read through this book, don't read the narration, because the guy's boring to read and really doesn't seem like it really fits in with actually what's going on. And when it does, it just tells you exactly what you just watched and witnessed. So if you don't read the narration during this book, you're probably better off. So the narration really drags this book down. Overall, the story is actually pretty good. The idea of humans and mutants working together as a common goal really is a good premise for a book. Captain America's suit is still really scaly. As a whole, I'm going to give this book a 2 out of 5. I still have hope for Rick here that he can pull this one out of the bag. But as it's been going right now, I haven't had a whole lot of success reading this book. But we're just going to keep plugging away at it, and I'm sure that there's going to be something out that we can pull out of this book. So that was for Uncanny Avengers number 4. So I just want to remind everybody to subscribe to my channel. If you guys like what you're watching out here and you'd like to see more of what I've got for you guys, please subscribe. You can also find me on Twitter. And if you noticed, this week I didn't have a pick of the week. And that's because I want to leave it up to you. I have 2 books here. Hawkeye number 8 and FF number 4. Both fantastic books, both Matt Fraction titles, and both my picks of the week. But I want you guys to tip the scales. Tell me which book should deserve to be better and which one is like the ultimate book out of the 2. But I really want your guys' input on this. So tell me, Hawkeye or FF? So that's it for this week. I want to thank everybody for watching this video. Remember to subscribe. And that is it. And I'll see you guys on the next one.